Hey everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com and you're watching the Banter Zone. Sorry, the Fast Count. First, let's start off with all of this week's biggest WWE news. Number one contender AJ Styles has been pulled from the SmackDown tapings and several live events this week as a result of nagging injuries. It's thought that WWE officials want AJ to stay fresh for his match at Extreme Rules, which sort of implies that the bout could be a very grueling one. Social Outcasts member Adam Rose has recently been arrested for domestic battery and tampering with a witness. The South African-born superstar was recently suspended following a breach of the wellness policy, and this recent event can't help his case at all. It certainly wouldn't be a surprise to see Rose released by the company, especially given the fact that they're in the middle of a shake-up on the roster. And speaking of cuts, you may have heard that WWE have released various superstars over the past week, including Zeb Colder, El Torito, Hornswoggle, Santino Marella, was he still employed by the company? Cameron, Alex Riley, Wade Barrett, and most tragically of all, the saviour of the masses, Damien Sandow. Apparently Sandow was released because creative simply didn't have anything that would work with him anymore, and they really want to freshen up the roster and bring in some new faces. And in related news, Triple H has recently signed a new performers deal. And now for all the news from elsewhere in the world of wrestling. Could there be a WWE v TNA storyline about to take place on neutral ground in Evolve? At a recent Evolve show, TNA star Ethan Carter III invaded a main event between Drew Galloway and Johnny Gargano, who, as we all know, has appeared in NXT several times. Carter and Galloway then cut a scathing promo after the match in which they called out NXT, called out WWE, and basically said that they're taking over the promotion. Now this has been met with a very mixed response because everyone's excited about a potentially hot new angle, but on the other hand, in his promo, Carter mentioned that results in WWE are predetermined, it's a fake sport, and that's never wise to say because, as we all know, all of wrestling's predetermined, so I'm not quite sure what his thinking was there. And then again, we also have to consider how WWE will feel about this angle being used, particularly as they work so closely with Evolve, and you can't imagine that they're going to be too pleased with their name being tarnished in such a way. Next up, we have big news of a surprising angle from Ring of Honor. Last week's Global Wars show saw a title match between Jay Lethal and hometown champion, Chicago-born Colt Cabana. It was a fantastic match, and Colt seemed to be edging towards a victory and left all the comedy shtick aside. He wrestled in a completely straightforward manner, outsmarting the champion at every turn, and he really looked to be on his way to the biggest win of his career. Then, it's the Bullet Club, too sweet, sucker, not cool enough. Suddenly there was an interference by the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, aka the biggest trolls in wrestling at the minute. They proceeded to super kick Taylor Hendricks, Jay Lethal's valet, and the referee, and then promised that there'd be a new Bullet Club member debuting right there and then in the middle of the show. Suddenly the lights went out, and when they came back up, Adam Cole was stood in the ring in a lovely, lovely Bullet Club t-shirt. And for anyone expecting a clean end to the match, forget that because Bullet Club super kicked everyone, literally everyone, commentators, timekeepers, various referees, every official they sent down to the ring. They super kicked Lethal about 20 times. They super kicked Cabana about 20 times. The Young Bucks even super kicked their own dad, who, if you haven't seen the show, looks exactly how you'd imagine the Young Bucks dad to look. He was a bit older, he had like a grey ponytail, sparkly he looked quite silly, but they super kicked him as well and laughed about it. And whenever the Young Bucks are in an angle like this, it always pushes your suspension of disbelief because they break the fourth wall all the time. They're effectively the Deadpool of professional wrestling. And this angle, like the previous one I mentioned, has also been met with a very mixed response online too. Colt v Lethal was a fantastic match in all fairness and did deserve a clean ending. Then again, it does signal the start of a very interesting angle for Ring of Honor, which could involve a Bullet Club invasion. So we'll see how this one pans out. And finally, in huge news for fans of a certain Olympic hero, Kurt Angle will be returning to the ring this November at ICW Fear and Loathing. For those of you familiar with the Scottish promotion, Fear and Loathing is their WrestleMania. It's their big annual show. Last year saw Mick Foley get involved. He helped Grado defeat Drew Galloway for the title. So it's very exciting and interesting to see what Kurt will bring to the table too. And now, it's everyone's favourite time, especially if you're hungry, because we're about to ring in the takeaways. Firstly, let's stay on the topic of Bullet Club. Where does their angle end? Bullet Club have been around for a few years now. They were started by Finn Balor in New Japan, and like the NWO, they really do run the risk of overexposing themselves. Their membership swells with almost every 6 months, it seems, and they always bring new members in. And because they've been such an exciting, hot new angle in the wrestling world, it would be a shame to see them go the way of the late WCW NWO and become a bloated, sort of incoherent mess. Now we're going to address a very interesting trend in the wrestling world recently, because as you all know, WWE are heading in a new, more indie direction, but it's also important to consider whether indie wrestling's heading in a more WWE direction as well. We've already mentioned a big WWE style angle in Ring of Honor. The whole Young Bucks Bullet Club invasion was very reminiscent of the Nexus's debut in 2010, where they ripped apart the ringside area and beat up everyone. It was very sports entertainment, which isn't what Ring of Honor have typically done in the past. We've also got to consider the fact that over in New Japan, a major storyline over there is the fact that Kenny Omega has challenged Tanahashi to a ladder match. This is very atypical for Japanese wrestling, and it'll be incredibly interesting to see how the crowd respond to such a stipulation. And finally, going back to WWE for a second, who's going to be released next? It's been reported that the company is set to make more releases after Extreme Rules, and it really puts out a warning message to any superstars who haven't been used too much lately. Are their jobs going to be in danger? Does this mean we could possibly see the release of several undercard favourites? For example, The Ascension, could they be going soon? One of them suspended. R-Truth, Goldust, Tyler Breeze, as horrible as it is to say, since he was such a bright spark in NXT. What about the possibility of Fandango now that another comedic figure in Damien Sandow has been released? It's just a very strange time for fans of WWE, because as exciting as it is to see new NXT talent come in and freshen up the roster, it also means that some of our old favourites are probably going to lose their jobs too. Well, that's all we've got time for this week on the Fast Count. I've been official Bullet Club member Jack King, don't Google that. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_thejobber, and I'll see you soon.
WhatCulture.com are releasing a new magazine about wrestling, and it's called Wrestling. It'll have 140 pages of timeless wrestling content, including a brand new How WWE Should Have Booked written by this virulent son of a bitch. It will also have a list of the 100 best wrestling matches of all time compiled by WhatCulture staff and wrestling insiders. So the magazine is available to pre-order now. Follow the link in the description and enjoy WhatCulture.com's Wrestling.